So as you guys know, we like to train in series. We just believe that there's just important for us to keep developing ourselves and to keep growing and pushing for a higher and better version of ourselves, right? At the end of the day, I had this long discussion with my mother-in-law last night, which I was surprised just how long we talked about it, but it's so important that it doesn't matter what age you're in, is having that hunger and drive that lets you know that you don't exist on this planet, but you're actually living on this planet with purpose. There's such a difference. And we had shared so many stories of people that she knows especially, that sadly, those people have only existed for 65 plus years. And just seeing, like, as they look back on their life, how it just has no meaning. And so if we're not careful, we can let time go by and we don't put the value or the purpose in the time that we have. And that's what a waste that is. So again, part of our goal this series and this week is we really want to grow. As we know, we're excited that the fund is live and approved, and we're getting all the stuff together, working diligently to finish the accounting and all the stuff so that we can start collecting money and start running. Had a great feedback from all of our operating partners. They're all excited. Some of them are already scheduling events or webinars behind this. So really, really excited about this. And I think this is a timely message that we're going to go over. I decided to call it value-based team member. In real estate investments, and actually not just in real estate investments, in investments in general, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the name of Warren Buffett. He was one of the most famous investors on the planet. He really believes in value-based investments. And one of the most interesting things about his company that I really find interesting is that when they look for a company to invest in or an opportunity that they're dissecting and they're doing their due diligence on, even though he obviously looks for the value-based investment, part of that value-based investment for them is the team of the organization they're looking at. Do they have a proper team that performs with excellence? Do they have a team that operates at high efficiency, that if they were to invest some amounts of money that were substantial, could that team be able to handle it and then take it to that next level, right? And that's one of the biggest things that actually he looks at as one of his investment strategies, which I find really interesting. It's, you know, here's this guy that's been doing this for so many years, and one of the most important pieces of the puzzle isn't even necessarily the brand or the company, it's the people within the organization. How valuable are those people? How committed are those people? How productive are those people? And so I want to challenge us and start considering our team. Are we a value-based team? Are you a value-based team member in the organization? Now, as we begin to share this information, today I'm not going to have a lot of time to unpack all of them, but I really want to get to some important pieces first to kind of lay the foundation for where we're going with this. And hopefully this will challenge all of us, including me, to really step up and go to that next level of growth. So let's begin with a really important piece here. Hey, honey. When we talk about adding value to a company, there are a lot of myths, but specifically there are two types of myths that individuals make a mistake generally because they've heard through the grapevine over the years that this is the way that you add value to an organization. And if you do that, they'll reward you, they'll take care of you, and for many, many years to come, you'll be able to benefit because you were specifically doing these specific things. But the reality is, over time, when you look at an organization, which I'm going to unpack right now, what you'll realize is that that is not necessarily the way to add value to a company. And so myth number one that I want to kind of unpack for you is more hours equals more value. Now, studies have shown that overworked employees produce less than the employees who focus on productivity using scheduling or scheduled time blocking. I'm going to stop there for just a minute. Think about how many times you've seen people that want to earn or grow, and what they think is that equals more hours. If I work more hours, I will produce more. If I produce more, people will see that I'm a valuable asset to the organization, right? I've made that mistake before when I actually used to work, even in ministry. I thought the more hours I put in, the more impact I would have. But actually, it was the opposite. The more time I put in, because I wasn't being productive with my time, I was wasting my time, I got burnt out. And as I was burnt out, I was less productive, I was less impactful, and I was very frustrated. So at the end of the day, it actually backfired because what I thought was going to be value equaled frustration for me. And guess what? The organization and the people around me got less of me because I wasn't being productive. Does that make sense? So I know it sounds counterintuitive because you would think that more hours equals more value, But the truth is that is a myth, and we need to understand that value doesn't come from that. So this myth has a negative impact over time, right, on the employee and on the company rather than bringing value to the table. So if this is something in your mind, for the rest of the series, I'm going to talk about how you can add value. Don't think that more hours equals value, because we're not even looking at that as a piece of the equation, because we're already studying from previous studies and previous companies and personal references. That doesn't mean that you will produce more value. Does that make sense so far? All right. Myth number 2, more years equals more value. Now, many people believe that the more years that you spend in an organization, the more value you bring to the table, because you are showing your commitment through time. However, businesses don't survive because their employees work there for long periods of time. They survive because what? Employees produce value to the organization and the marketplace. So remember, guys, that even though it is honorable that somebody would want to be in an organization for a long period of time to show their commitment, that does show a level of loyalty. But remember that the organization may not even last the time you're willing to give it if you're not being productive with that time that you've committed during that organization. Does that make sense? So these are 2 myths that I want to completely remove from the equation, because as far as I'm concerned, and as far as Luis and some of the other leadership here, it is not about how many hours you trade with me, and it's not about how many years you've been here. At the end of the day, what matters is that you are constantly improving and adding value to the organization, helping the organization grow. Because at the end of the day, if the organization doesn't grow, what happens to your opportunity anyway? It disappears. Everybody with me? So this is why this myth does not make sense. Now, for some of you might think, well, I've come here and I've worked for years here and I've put a lot of good work and effort, and I'm not belittling that, but I want to show you a picture, and I want you guys to be the judge that determines who should get more value or who should get more opportunity based on this particular scenario. So let's take a look. All right. So I want you guys to meet my good old friend, John Smith. He's an office manager, and he's been doing it in that organization as an office manager for 7 years. Now I want you to meet my other good friend, Maria Smith. She's also an office manager and has been with the organization for 2 years. Now take a look at this. John Smith has worked with the organization for 7 years and has been punctual and does a very good job at ordering the right office supplies to ensure that the company supplies don't run out. Would you agree that so far, this guy for 7 years has consistently been there on time, and he's made sure that you don't have a lack of supplies? Is that good? Absolutely, it's good, right? To the world standards, it is good. But now let's compare him with my friend Maria Smith. Now, what did Maria Smith do that we would find different? So here we go. Maria worked for 2 years for the firm, has been punctual, and helps the employer by negotiating discounts with vendors, buying in bulk to save more, and even created a sharing program between departments to equally distribute the resources, making supplies last longer. So let me ask you a question. Who of these 2 managers would you say has brought the most value? But is that true? Maria's only been there for 2 years, and my friend John Smith has been there for 7.
He's comfortable.
He's comfortable, right? But you guys see how clearly it is so clear. I think common sense would say, hey, this is a big X right here. Our good old friend, as much as I like you, thanks for being here for 7 years, most of you guys would X him out if you had to fire somebody because the company needed to downsize. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Good guy. I mean, we're not talking bad about this person. This guy's brought value to the company, but he doesn't even come close to the value that this particular person has done. Now, did this person make sure that we had supplies like he did? Yes, but this person went above and beyond and started finding ways to save the company money, started finding ways to create a team that works in unity so that they can share resources. So one department may not necessarily need to print as much as another department. So guess what? The allocation of paper we're giving to this department goes to that department, and therefore we don't have to double our printing. And then that department, vice versa, starts sharing the resources so that you don't have to order as much. That is somebody that who thinks out of the box, who's bringing value to the table. And if you were to look at them one-to-one, I think everyone within the sound of my voice would agree that Maria gets the job hands down. Would you agree? But now let me flip it on you. How many times are we John Smith and are we judgmental of people like Maria Smith because, oh, they're coming to the office, they're creating disruption? Think about that for just a minute. Oh, our process is this. Why are we stepping out and doing this? Do you guys see what I'm talking about? And so this is why it is so important for us as a team to constantly look for improvement and to champion the improvement. You guys with me so far? I'm sorry. Everyone's like, oh, crap. Sorry, that was right here for me too, by the way. Right. Anyway, so I just wanted us to get a visual because a lot of times we get so caught up in our own little world that we forget what it means to bring value to the table in an organization. And it's imperative for us to really get this perspective if we want to grow. All right, so now, adding value. First and foremost, I want to share with you a prerequisite before we talk about how you can actually add value to an organization. So let's begin with this. Before you ask, what can I bring to the company to bring value? What you need to first do when you're looking at this opportunity is ask this question. Am I meeting the minimum expectations for my position? You see, because how could you expect to add value to an organization if you don't even know or even achieve the minimum standards required by your position? And a lot of times, most people are saying, give me more, but they haven't even done with what they have. And so if you really want to go to the next level and add value, I want to challenge you, ask yourself this question. Am I meeting the minimum expectations of my position? Now, as I bring this up to you, some of you guys actually know what you're supposed to be doing. So to you, you're like, you know what, I am, or ooh, there's an area I can improve. But I guarantee you that most of you are still asking yourselves, I don't even know what my role is. What am I supposed to be doing, right? And if you think about that, it's okay to ask that. In fact, I was reading a study and they said that over 50% of all employees across America have no idea what their actual roles are. Crazy, scary, right? And so here's what I want to tell you. If you fall in that category, if you are not 100% sure of what your roles and responsibilities are, then you need to meet with a leader and get from them the clear picture of what it is that you need to do. And guess what? If your manager doesn't really fully know, because let's be honest, in small organizations, we all wear like 10 different hats, right? So for me to clearly define Darla's role, it's a joke. I don't know. She's Superwoman, right? So what do I need to do? So if she doesn't have clarity and I don't have a full picture of what that role is because Darla wears 3-4 hats, then what she could do to sit down with Rick is to say, Rick, here's where I'm at. Here's what I believe I'm supposed to be doing, but I need you to help me. And here's Rick's answer. I have no idea because you do so much. What do we do? Well, then we start dialogue and we start saying, okay, so what should be expected of you, Darla? And before you know it, in that communication, we literally create a clear picture that says, Darla, anything above this is above and beyond. But this is really what I need from you is A, B, C, D, E. Does that make sense? Now Darla has complete clarity and now she can operate at a higher capacity. And now what happens is, because I went through this process with Darla, when I see Darla going above and beyond that, do you think it's a lot more noticeable for me? Absolutely. You see, the problem with most people, they're not being noticed because people don't care. They're not being noticed because people don't even recognize what you're supposed to be doing. So when you go above and beyond, nobody knows. They just expect it out of you. Does that make sense? So if we want to grow and we want to go to the next level, especially in this third fund, where we're going to the next level, we're raising millions and millions of dollars, let's make sure we have a clear picture of what our role is. And in fact, I would probably check on that every 6 months at least when you're working and you're growing and things start changing. For example, Ani started as an appointment setter that then became a loan officer very quickly, right? And then all of a sudden, now we're saying, hey, you're doing really good. We're going to give you guys opportunities to sell properties. So now all of a sudden, before you know it, Ani's got 3 or 4 jobs. Yes, they're great income potential opportunities, but do you see how quickly we can muddy the waters? And then if I say, Ani, are you doing your job? She's like, well, which one? Do you guys follow me? So it would be, is it Rick's responsibility to go back to her and make sure everything's clear? Well, I mean, if I'm proactive, I should. But at the end of the day, if Ani wants to go and bring more value to the table so that she can earn her keep, it's her role to make sure that she has full clarity of what's expected of her. And so I want to challenge each and every one of you on our team. We're going to the next level. Rick, Luis, we're not going to have all the time in the world to be able to do this. So we need you to speak up. We need you to take that step and say, look, I don't have full clarity. All right. Now, if you have clarity of what your role is, and if you're not at least hitting the minimum of what your goals are, right, of what's expected of you, then can you really come to me later and say, hey, Rick, I want more income opportunities. Does that make sense? It's not even fair because let's say, for example, I'll just take Ani and Javier, for example. Let's say Ani comes to work, but she's doing okay. But Javier has been stepping up and he got clarity and he's doing the things he needs to do and he's performing. Ani comes to me and says, Rick, I want a promotion. I want an opportunity to make more money. But Javi's sitting there busting his butt and there's a role that comes up. Who do you think I should give the role to? Should I give it to Ani because she's asking? Or should I clearly give it to the person who's showing me they're going above and beyond? And so that's the whole point, guys. The more you create clarity, the clearer and simpler it is for you to do your job. But also the easier it is for management to see you and say, wow, I notice what you're doing. I feel the weight of what you bring to the table. And so again, I want to challenge you to do that because so many times we just get so complacent and then we blame other people instead of blaming ourselves for not taking full ownership. Because at the end of the day, if it's your role, if it's your responsibility, if you want to grow, there's only one person you can blame if you're not, and that's yourself. Everybody with me so far? So that's really the big challenge. So now that we've addressed the issue and we said, hey, I'm meeting the minimum standard, I have a clear picture of where I'm going, then you can start saying, okay, Rick, well, what can I bring to the company to bring value so that I can grow along with the organization? So as you guys can see, I had to unpack this, so we're not going to have time to do all of them. But I want to share one of the 8 that we're going to be going over as a team. So adding value to a company, 1 of 8. Here we go. First one, and I think it's a common sense, bring more money, right? And I'll explain what this means. The more money that you help to generate, the more stability you create with the organization and the more value that you bring to the table. I think everybody here understands the concept. Now, this is why most companies praise and glorify a sales business development specialist role. Why? Because they hunt. They bring to the table the income. And many companies make the mistake of only glorifying them and disregarding the rest of their team because they know that, hey, these guys bring money. You give them what they want and you shut up. You suck it up. You wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for them, right? That's the mentality that corporate America has. And to a degree, yes, it's important. But you know what's important too? That everybody in the team has a conscious mindset that says, hey, how can I help bring money to the company? Because the more money I bring to the company, the more stability the company has and the more opportunity I have because I have contributed to the organization. Does that make sense? So let me give you a picture so that you understand. The point here, guys, is the entire team can help to create stability with income. Let's break it down with this. Sales team, as we just talked about, is the #1 spear that helps generate money. So what can a sales team member do? Well, first and foremost, you can learn your products even more, right? Master them. The more you know your product, the more people know that you know your stuff. And guess what people buy from? They don't buy from a sleazy salesman. What they buy is out of trust. So if somebody trusts that you know what you're talking about, guess who they're going to trust with their decision? You. So if you want to instantly improve your sales, begin working on your product knowledge, your experience, your strategizing of what we do as a company. Another thing you can do is you can improve your skills to increase your sales. You see, it's not just necessarily knowing the product, it's learning when to ask for the business, learning when to ask for referrals, learning how to actually refer people to someone when they turn you down so that regardless, even a no becomes a positive experience. And those things are learned over time. Now, we do a lot of training, as you guys, everybody know here, that's part of why we do a lot of training on this. But realistically, if you want to make 6 figures plus and you're in the sales job, and let's say even if we didn't provide training, which we do, who's responsible for growing their skill set? It's you. If you're the one that wants more money, you need to take ownership of your role and you need to start developing yourself. And that's what I want to challenge sales to do. Now, good news is we train, but guess what? There's millions of different training systems that you can learn from. Learning how to ask for the business, how to follow up properly, how to refer business to other people, how to build referral partners strategically. There's so many ways that you can improve your sales. And guess what? The more you do that, the more money you make and the more money you bring to the organization, hitting the #1 goal of the company. But let's talk about customer service. Like, let's be honest, customer service reps, they suck, right? No, that's not true because customer service is critical for a company. So one of the things they could do is learn how to upsell products to existing customers or even ask for referrals. And if you don't even know how to sell and you are afraid to even ask for an actual upsell on a product, for example, I'll give you one just so that people might not understand. Let's say that we have a customer support in the office and a client calls in, they're asking questions for their loan. And they look at the loan and say, wow, your loan's coming due in 3 months. What are you planning on doing with this deal? Are you going to hold it Or are you planning on selling it quickly? Because at some point there might be a fee associated. Maybe we can help you with a refinance. And by doing that, that customer service representative served the customer, but created a new opportunity of income to help strengthen the company. Does everybody follow what I'm saying? So that's a perfect example of how a customer service rep could do it. Another thing you may do if you're a customer service rep and you don't even know the products is you can easily say, hey, you know what? Based on what I see here, we have so many different products. It sounds like you're only using one. Let me connect you with Steve, or let me connect you with whoever in the team, because we may have another program or product that may help you grow your portfolio better and faster. And all you're doing is handing off to another department. It's simple, but if you do 10 of those a week, do you think at least one of those can convert to a sale? Yes. Now, did that customer service rep bring value to the organization? Yes, because they didn't just answer the phone. They created opportunities for the organization. That's the difference. Now let's take a look at, of course, any admin role. All right, so somebody in admin role that's not in customer service that says, what do I do? Well, guess what? When we have customers here or we have events, they can make sure that everyone has all the marketing materials, that the contracts are prepared, right? Anything that is needed to make sure that we can impress the potential client visiting the office. Or if we're doing an event, hey, I'm gonna go as an administrative team, I'm gonna support, and I'm gonna be sitting in the back and I'll collect all the business cards and I'll give them a flyer, I'll give them something from our products and services to create a better experience, and then I'll hand it off to a sales rep. You see what I'm saying? It's not just sitting there. How many times have you been to an event and you see an administrative person sitting there, and most of them don't even look up anymore. They're stuck on Facebook or social media just looking at pictures while people walk by. You know how professional that is? But that would be the person saying, I need a bonus. Do you want to give that person a bonus, or do you want to give the bonus to the person that stands up, is greeting people, handing out flyers? Hey, here's Ani over here. Let me introduce you to her. She'll be able to answer those questions for you. Do you guys see the difference? There is a clear distinction, a clear difference. But those that hide behind their roles only, those that literally just sit in the corner and just try to avoid everybody else, what they're actually doing is putting themselves in a little box. And if that little box doesn't produce, all of a sudden that person becomes obsolete. Do you guys follow the difference? But when you're helping the tribe, when you're helping people, when you're going above and beyond, that is the weight that people feel around you. And so when somebody says, hey, we got to cut a team, and you're sitting down with the leadership, and the leadership's talking and says, man, we do have to make some decisions. Well, who can we lose? And they're like, well, not this person. This person is so valuable. They're impacted in various ways. Do you see how that comes back to actually help you? Or hey, when it comes time to bonus, and you're like, who should we bonus? Because we can't bonus everyone. Who do you think you're going to bonus? You're going to bonus that person that has stepped up and supported the role. And that's the point that I want to make. Now for leadership, here's another key component. Leaders may say, well, I'm just a leader. I'm just going to make sure these people do their job. But the reality is you can work on training different team members to improve customer experience. We can take ownership of certain things and say, you know what I've noticed lately, the way we answer our phone calls is really not as good. For example, or the way we're responding to emails, or the way we're doing all these things, right? Let me stop real quick and say, hey, why don't we role play a little bit? Let's come up with a new process or a better way so that we create an experience. Or hey, for example, one of the issues we recently had, hey, if Javier's not in the office or he's somewhere else, the phone rings, nobody answers. Well, is that standard? Is that like, if that was your business, would you want that to happen? No. So what would you do? Then you come back and say, well, why don't I start working diligently? Why don't we just have this ring, and then you create a process, then it goes to you, then it goes to you. Can we all carry the weight? And when you start doing that, you start bringing value to the organization. Because how many know that some of those phone calls are sales calls? We missed 2 sales calls, we missed 2 sales opportunities. Those 2 sales opportunities could be the very income that pays your salary. So think about that for just a minute. But it's okay, it's beneath me. I'm better. You're better till they cut you off. You're better till you go somewhere else even, and then they have the same standard, and then you're recycling the same process. You are not a viable person. You're not a value-based person. Does that make sense? So I want to challenge all of us. You all are valuable, right? But how you bring that value to the table really helps you to determine how high you grow when the opportunities come. And I want to challenge us to really consider that. Now, for the rest of the time, I would say probably about a month or so, we're going to knock out all these other pieces, but I just wanted you to have one of the 8 that we've covered. And I want to leave it with this. I want you guys to look at this from this perspective. Just pretend this is a visual of time in years, and that we're looking at a growth of value in performance. Now, of course, you guys remember my good old friend, John Smith. He's been there for 7 years, right? But we agree that we weren't that impressed, right? Most of these kind of employees get to a certain level of performance and they basically just repeat the same exact value year over year over year over year. So if you were to actually put their productivity over time, that's what you see. It's kind of a flat line. You agree? Now, what happens to your heart when it flatlines? You die, right? And the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is over time, this individual becomes replaceable because they're not valuable. They're just a consistent status quo. Now, again, let's take a look at the picture of somebody who over time begins to implement and begin to produce and constantly looks to get better. Now, when you put that person in a timeline, you can clearly see the difference between somebody who's being innovative and bringing value to the table and somebody who's just doing good. But that's it. So looking at it from that perspective, I think it's pretty clear. We all know who gets the opportunity, who gets the growth, who gets the income bonuses, because that person is constantly bringing value to the table. All right. So hopefully this gave you guys a clear picture. So in closing, some of you guys might say, well, how do I do it? Like, what do we do now? Well, I think it's very simple. Action is the key to all success. So we have to commit to improve ourselves and begin to learn these fundamentals and implement it in our own lives and implement them at work. So I'm going to challenge you guys, ask yourself those questions that we talked about today. Am I meeting the standard quo? Am I at least hitting my roles? If I don't have clarity, I need to get clarity by Friday, because I can't be another week without really knowing what I'm supposed to be doing here. And then the next thing is, if you are, then, hey, how can I add value to the company? Well, one of the things we just learned this week, hey, one of the big things that helps a company grow is money, right? How can I use my role to create more opportunities so that we can make more money as an organization? That's really what we need to think and consider. And so I will leave it with that for you guys, and I'll open it up for any comments or questions or concerns. So thank you guys.
I'd like to
Anyone else?
On
Yeah.
Friday, we had a really good discussion, and we tend to have really good discussions from time to time and really frequently in our sales meetings. And I encourage this. I encourage the fact that we discuss openly problems instead of just ignoring the big elephant in the room. I would rather have discussions where we disagree on things that are happening and we disagree on even ways how we can fix it, but at the end of the day, we find solutions and everybody is trying to bring a solution, because those are very effective conversations that move the needle forward. But I think we have a couple of departments and we have several situations where nothing is discussed. There are no problems, everything's okay, and we don't necessarily propose changes. And anytime we have a situation like that, well, it's kind of like a little pond where you're not providing oxygen to the water, so the water gets contaminated. Because what we need to do is we need to encourage these type of conversations that may not be the most comfortable situations. They may not be the most comfortable conversations, right? Because it's about changing things, but that's the only way how we could provide oxygen to these departments, to the company. So I encourage you guys to speak up, because if you are just sitting idle and not providing solutions to problems, then we're not growing. And I can assure you, we have a lot of problems throughout the organization that we could improve. We have a lot of existing methods that we could improve. But if you're just sitting idle and not bringing these solutions, then you're part of the problem. So I encourage you guys to have your team leader, have conversations with your team leader and tell them the issues that are going on, the problems that are going on, the solutions that we need to fix to get better, to have better customer service, to be more efficient, to be cost effective, and to have a better overall experience for our customers, because that's really the whole purpose. But if you're not providing solutions, then guess what? You're not growing and you're not helping us grow. And if you're dependent for just Rick and I to make all the decisions so that everything can improve, we're never gonna grow. So we need your input, we need your feedback, we need the problems, and we need to speak about the elephants in the room at all times. That's what I think.
Absolutely. Awesome. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
I think too, we've been created for excellence, and we're supposed to operate orderly, and we're supposed to be highly successful. We operate our best when we're productive, when we're highly successful. And one thing you mentioned, I've been part of big corporations already, and sometimes there are some fat cats sitting up on top telling other people what to do because they think they earned the right to not work as hard as what they're telling Stephanie to work because you're below me or something like that. And what I can tell everyone is that there is no fat cat up the chain. Luis, you're called to the same standard as Rick. Each one of us are, as the brand new employee, as Jocelyn. And that's a comforting environment to be in because everyone is fair and everyone is held to it. The other thing is this fund is not an ordinary environment. I've been waiting a long time for something like this to happen. And I had a little taste of it before, where an employee mindset, if you come here with an employee mindset, you probably aren't gonna survive. And the reason I'm saying that is because the fund has opened up an opportunity for us to all be owners. And that means that it can be life-changing, it can be financially changing for our lives, for our legacies, for our families. But the other thing is you get to be an owner and we get to act like owners, so we get to treat it like owners. And to get everything we just said, to have a group of leaders, to have everyone playing on the same playing field, and to have an opportunity where there's an honest environment, and to become an owner where you can make unlimited money, but also be part of something you help build, an employee probably won't make it in that environment. And honestly, it doesn't foster that type of a position. So I want to congratulate everyone for being part of this and being an owner of the company. And what an honor it is to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Absolutely. That's a really good point because there is a difference in the way we treat things that we own versus things that don't matter, right, to us, because that's their problem, not mine, till it's yours. Right? So that's a really good point. Awesome. Anyone else?
I think that basically when it comes to giving feedback and stuff like that, it's very important. It's very important for the communication, especially, again, if you want to set yourself aside from being an employee or wanting to be with the company for long term. You know, you definitely want to grow, and you know that if you help the company grow, you're going to be growing. So giving feedback to me is one of the most important things that you can bring to the table because you're opening eyes that other people don't see. Not everybody sees with the same eyes. And so, you know, you're placed in different positions and different things, and you talk to different people all the time. And so you need to bring all of that back so that you can work together and communicate together and be able to make it a better place for everybody, not just for yourself.
100%. Awesome. Love it. Thank you.